I saw that all the big teams, in order to be great, had something in common. They all looked to dominate on the pitch, dominate the play, and control the situation at all times. That was my goal, but my greatest goal was to make people have fun.
In the late 1980s, the fans and players of Milan had fun in abundance, thanks to Arrigo Sacchi, a man who had never played the game professionally and had limited experience as a coach, created one of the finest club sides the world had ever seen.
Sacchi began a revolution in Italian football.
What Sacchi achieved was football utopia.
Sacchi was an innovator, a very important coach.
He was the leader of the orchestra, and he made the team play some very good music.
A manager must be like an orchestra conductor, but not only must he direct, but he is also the one that has written the piece.
Many successful managers achieve greatness thanks to their longevity, sustaining careers over many decades. Arrigo Sacchi's time in the spotlight was brief, but when he was at his peak, his flame burnt as brightly as any other.
In 6 months, we won the Champions League, the European Super Cup, and the Intercontinental. And Ancelotti said, "We are the best in the world." The club, the players, the manager, they gave everything that they had in them, with desire, generosity, seriousness, enthusiasm, and a pursuit of perfection. But I was tired. I couldn't give any more. I would ask for everything, and I would give everything, and I could no longer give my all.
Arrigo Sacchi was born in Fusignano in the northeast of Italy in 1946. From an early age, football was his passion. That fervour outweighed his talent, and Sacchi soon realised that in order to make a career out of football, he had to turn his attention away from the pitch and towards the touchline.
I began at Fusignano. I did the first 3 years not having much confidence in my intelligence and my skills. But I had a great work ethic, and with this team we would do training every day for a month, when they used to do 1 per week throughout the year. And we won the championship with these young kids.
Sacchi's coaching career steadily progressed. A selection of minor roles in the lower divisions eventually led to his appointment at Parma. His first season saw the club win the Serie C title and promotion, but results in the Coppa Italia would shape his destiny.
The first match, the Coppa Italia at Milan, and we went there with a squad full of kids that had just gone from C to B, and we won 1-0. Berlusconi came over and he said to me, "I will follow you carefully." We got to the quarterfinals, and again we got Milan. We returned to Milan in February, and we won 1-0. The sporting director of Milan rang me and he said, "The doctor wants to speak to you."
The outspoken owner had made his choice. Beating Milan twice had sealed the deal. A relative unknown was installed as the new coach of AC Milan.
I was 40 years old back then. I was a beginner. And he gave us the best conditions to work in, giving the team stability, not going off the handle, enthusiasm, never going over his authority, and just carrying the club with tranquility.
If Berlusconi was happy with his decision, the Italian media were less impressed.
They asked me, "How can you train champions if you've never been a champion yourself?" And I said, "I never knew you had to be a horse trainer, and this has never been a problem for me. This was an advantage for me."
I think it's the preparation and the ideas of a person that are important, not whether they have played at a high level or not.
I had not been a great footballer and I didn't know anyone, but that was an advantage for me because I did not have a past. I could just have a future.
Sacchi arrived during a time of upheaval for the Rossoneri. The previous decade had been an unhappy period, but Berlusconi was determined to return to former glories.
When President Berlusconi took over the club, then the organisation changed. Everything was transformed.
Right from the off, the president talks about becoming the best side in the world. We weren't even the best side in Italy yet, and weren't even challenging for the Scudetto. So we were very unsure of it all.
He had the power and also the money to realize something really big. So we were convinced that he was a person which was sending us to the good way of winning trophies.
Signed in 1987, Marco van Basten was an inspired choice, but there were others.
Van Basten was the best of them, but not the most indispensable one. He was the best, but it was the classic case of the icing on the cake. The others made the cake, and he was the icing. Gullit was the leader. He had a very strong character. For me, he was number one.
Gullit's importance was really the change in the club. He had the offensive mentality of the Dutch, and with his great charisma, he transferred that to all the other Italians in the group.
Squad unity was fundamental. The players had never encountered such a distinctive coaching style.
If I compare him with his predecessor, Mr. Lidholm was much more focused on the physical side of our game, much less on the mental side. Sacchi taught us to be unbelievably focused, to think about football all the time. It was very stressful, but I learned so much.
He used to use Formula One as an example and say, if someone doesn't go at 200 miles per hour in training, how can he do it in a race? So he trained diligently, but also intensely, and therefore Sunday became any other day for us. We managed to reproduce everything that we'd focused upon during the week.
I was very demanding with myself and with them. I was very critical, but they knew that after my family, they were the most important people in my life.
If Sacchi's training was demanding, it was also highly innovative.
One of Sacchi's most famous coaching innovations that he did was he would have his full team line up on the pitch and there would be no ball, and Sacchi would simply tell them where the ball was and what was happening. And they all had to react and move around the pitch and pretend they were passing the ball. You know, this idea that you can get 11 grown men to spend half an hour, you know, moving around the pitch, following an imaginary ball, but doing so in unison, doing so with the right cohesion, doing so in harmony, you know, is remarkable. And I think very few people other than Sacchi could have ever pulled that off.
I told them to imagine that the keeper had the ball, and each of them had to envisage what would be the next best option, to try to dribble or the short pass. Then you could see them receive the ball, and Donadoni and Van Basten would change position, and that is how we trained them to think collectively about leaving their marker.
Sacchi had imprinted some tactical concepts, and that Milan side almost played on memory. The movements were perfect at the back, the midfielders came back to help, and all of this was because of Sacchi's maniacal work, which actually ended with him stressing and exhausting all the players.
Emilio Butragueño told me once that when we played against them, Real Madrid sent a spy to see our training session. And he returned saying that he understood nothing. It was 11 versus no one.
Sacchi began badly. The players struggled to come to terms with his new methods. Early results weren't good, but Berlusconi backed his man.
The beginning, as always, was a disaster. We lost our first away game against Fiorentina with a goal from Baggio. Espanyol took us out of the UEFA Cup and Ascoli from the Coppa Italia. We were about 8th or 9th in the table. We had to play the derby against Inter. I was on a one-year contract. Berlusconi arrived and said through the paper, "Today I am renewing Sacchi's contract for another year."
The turning point came when we won away to Verona, and from there started the journey of this truly extraordinary team.
Suddenly, everything clicked. Milan not only won, they did so with style. The Italian catenaccio method was forgotten. Milan attacked from the off, overwhelming their opponents.
In Italy, you score a goal and everyone retreats. And I would say, no, we score a goal and we keep attacking, because this is like boxing. If you land a good hook, you try to execute the definitive punch. And we have to believe in our game and our personality.
After that difficult beginning, Milan soon found the title in their sights.
It was a tough campaign, as that was the era of Maradona's Napoli, and we've been behind them all season, right up until the end.
But every day, Sacchi would tell us, "We will catch them, and we will win the title." We used to think he was a bit crazy, but he seemed sure of what he was saying.
Sacchi was right. In his first season, Milan did catch Napoli. They'd not only won Serie A for the first time in 9 years, but they had played with a verve and attacking style rarely seen in Italy.
It was a new adventure. It was something I always dreamt of. So therefore, the first year I was without any fear. It was all new for me. I didn't care against who I played as long as I could play. And I think it was one of the most spectacular years I had, I think, the first year with Milan.
Sacchi knew what he wanted and who. And despite presidential misgivings, the following season he increased his Dutch contingent.
The 3 Dutchmen were fundamental for me. I risked my job for one of them because at that time you could only have 3 foreign players. And Milan already had Gullit, Van Basten and Bergi. I wanted Rijkaard instead of Bergi, but Berlusconi was in love with him. But I threatened to walk out. And he said that he would get rid of him and buy Rijkaard instead. He was a phenomenal midfielder, not always as professional as I wanted, but a great player.
Milan were now chasing the biggest prizes. It had been 20 years since they had won the European Cup, but in 1989 they reached the semi-finals where they played Spanish giants Real Madrid. A spectacular Van Basten header earned the Italians a draw at the Bernabeu. But their performance in the second leg at the San Siro saw Sacchi's new Milan side on the cusp of greatness.
That Real Madrid side was a great squad. All they needed to join the Golden Club was to win a Champions League final. That team had won 2 consecutive UEFA Cups and 5 leagues on the trot. But the true pleasure is that we did something epic.
In Milan, Ancelotti, Rijkaard, Gullit, Van Basten and Donadoni were all on the score sheet in an incredible 5-0 victory.
We were like a block that moved backwards and forwards at a rhythm that they could not follow. It was impossible for them. And the thing about that squad was that they always wanted to score more. It was a fantastic moment for us. It was the moment when Milan dominated world football, but not just because of the victory, but also how it was achieved.
It was a memorable performance, but it would mean nothing if the final was lost. On May the 24th, 1989, Milan met Romanian champion Steaua Bucharest in Barcelona.
It was great. It was the first final and had something that these days is probably impossible to repeat. A stadium filled with red and black, up against maybe just 300 or 400 Steaua fans. It was an incredible sight, and not to mention the level of support we received. As soon as we saw the stadium, we knew we couldn't lose that game.
I asked the players that evening what they thought. And Gullit said, "We will attack them from the first minute until we have no strength left." And that is how it happened.
Milan were unstoppable. 2 goals each from Van Basten and Gullit meant a comprehensive 4-0 win. This was only the 3rd time in history that a European Cup final had been won by such a huge margin.
I think that was one of those games that every player who performed with the team reached a very, very high level.
After so many years of waiting, in just 10 months, we ended the wait for both the Scudetto and the European Cup. So that was extraordinary.
Well, when we won the first cup, I experienced something that I'd never experienced before, in life or in football. And it is something I recommend for everyone to try. To wake up the next morning with a sweet taste in your mouth.
Sacchi had proved himself a stunning tactician. But combined with his attacking method, he had reinvented the approach to zonal marking and pressing.
Milan used neither man marking or zone defending. The team played in a zone when it had to play in a zone, and man marking when it was right to man mark. There was no need for forward players to come down to defend. That was the difference. And we played in a way in which the opposing team could not get free from our marking, and thus the attacking opponent could not go where he wanted. He would have to go where we wanted.
The countless hours practicing drills and movement off the ball had paid off. Everything Milan did was from memory. Sacchi had achieved something close to footballing perfection.
We realised that everything we did in training would affect the game ahead, and that was extremely satisfying. It was hard work and involved real dedication, all of us striving towards Sunday's game. And it was on Sunday when all the hard work in the week would reap its rewards.
The fun continued. Milan reached their 2nd consecutive European Cup final. This time they faced Portuguese champions Benfica. It was a different final to the one 12 months earlier, but the outcome was the same, thanks to Frank Rijkaard's second-half winner.
We won because the opposing team was a bit scared. We exploited our team qualities and our individual qualities, of Rijkaard especially, in a move that we had practiced 30 or 40 times. We'd seen that Benfica's 2 central defenders, who were Gomez and Aldair, were not covering the space but always following their man. So we made Van Basten come back. We'd push the ball forward, the defender would follow him, then he'd pass the ball to Rijkaard in the open space. And we won the match.
Winning it the 2nd time, that's a great achievement. And we struggled, but we managed, so it was a wonderful feeling afterwards.
Despite the triumph, Sacchi felt he could do no more in Milan. And a year later, he decided it was time to go.
By the end, I asked to resign because I was tired. I was tired. I was fed up with the atmosphere, the culture in Italian football, and all those who said I was evasive. The journalists saw me as evasive and as a difficult figure. Constantly I had to fight, and I was simply worn out.
The players admired Sacchi and had understood his importance for their professional growth. But after 4 years, we were quite stressed and exasperated by these concepts. There was a need for slightly less severe sessions. Still tough, but a bit more enjoyable. Not so much of that Taliban severity there had been.
Building on the foundations laid by Sacchi, Fabio Capello took Milan to 4 Scudettos and 1 European Cup over the next 6 seasons. Sacchi took on the biggest job of them all, coach of the national team. A very different challenge.
You spend 30 or 40 days per year with the national team. And with the club squad, I would do something like 300 training sessions. And the player in the national side would perform in a different manner. He could not have this security, confidence, imagination that he could have in a team where everyone collaborated and moved in a correct manner. So there was a big difference, and you had to be patient.
His patience was tested to the extreme during the 1994 World Cup finals. Italy scraped through the group stage before Roberto Baggio inspired the team all the way to the final, scoring crucial goals in each of the knockout rounds. Waiting for them in Pasadena were Brazil.
I remember 10 minutes into the game, I had an opportunity, but was unsure and failed to score. Berti, Baggio and myself all had chances in the second half. Brazil hit the post too, and had several chances themselves. But even after extra time, there was no winner, so it went down to the lottery of the penalty shootout.
Misses from Franco Baresi and Daniele Massaro meant the player of the tournament, Roberto Baggio, had to score. He didn't. Brazil were crowned world champions, but Sacchi looks back with pride.
I would have preferred to have won, of course, but I took it in my stride. The players that were crying, I told them, listen, when we started this, I asked all of you what would be the best result you could envisage. And most of you said to get to the quarterfinals, and only one said semi-finals. And look, we got to the final. And so, what else can you ask from life?
Sacchi remained in charge until elimination from the group stage of Euro 96. There was another year at Milan and spells with Atletico Madrid, Parma and as director of football at Real Madrid, but he couldn't match his first spell at the San Siro. And he retired in 2005.
What Sacchi achieved was football utopia. He created a team that, on its day, was effectively invulnerable and played just absurdly good football. The problem was he couldn't sustain it. It was just something to behold, and you know, arguably probably the last great tactical innovation we've seen, and that was 25 years ago.
That Arrigo Sacchi's time in the spotlight was short doesn't matter. His Milan team were one of the finest ever club sides. And for his success and innovation, Sacchi will always be regarded as one of the greatest managers.
We began our charge towards the title, and Milan would win but also entertain with a fabulous style of football. I think then we knew we had a team that was not unbeatable, but a team who could really do something in football.
He was a person who loved talking and spoke a lot with all the players. He would ask me questions and listen to me. But I think we should give credit to his strength, his innovations and his ideas. because we had never thought or even worked in that manner before.
When the media would ask him who he'd have marking Maradona or Platini, he would reply that it wasn't important.
I am one that loves football, and my first goal has always been to make people have fun, entertain them, and also make players excited. Donadoni once told me, during the week we work so hard, but on Sunday we had so much fun.